Hello Werx fans, and welcome to another edition of Modeling News Around the World. And this week the news is not a lot. Some things is going on. There is a show, an IPMS Region 8 show coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada this weekend, which will be the 27th, and it'll be at the Cannery Casino. I'm going to try to make it there. It's kind of hard to get a room there now. Should have got one when they had the deals on them. I figured I could always find a deal on a hotel near Las Vegas, but apparently that's the old world thinking, so it's pretty expensive if you try to do it just on your own. So anyways, hope to see everybody there. I'm going to try to make it and see what I can do. Other news, the Shizuoka show is still going to be going on in Japan. Some more information of pre-issues is coming out of there, so we'll have that in the next segment of future releases. That's about it. Nothing really exciting on the news end, so we'll get going with future releases. All right, Werx fans, some information on new releases for this week. There was a little dry spell in the beginning. I didn't have much to report on, but suddenly there's a whole bunch more stuff coming through the Shizuoka show and some other sources. So let's get started. First up, Hasegawa is doing a very strange subject. It's a 1/72nd scale, what is touted to be the A10D. It's a UAV version of the A10 Thunderbolt 2, and they're going to do one in 72nd scale. It's going to be kind of nice if it's a new tool or a fairly recent tool. I know last time they released the A10, it was their old mold, which had raised panel lines and was pretty crummy. So I'm hoping this won't be that one. But anyways, it does give some people some ideas like myself. Maybe try it in 32nd scale if they have an extra A10 hanging around. Next up, Hasegawa is doing a 1/200 scale 747-400 demonstrator, and this demonstrator apparently was made in a polished aluminum finish, really bright, and so it'll be kind of fun for people who want to try to get that almost chrome finish of polished aluminum effect. So that'll be kind of interesting. That'll be coming out later too. Next one up is Revell has a 1/32nd scale Focke-Wulf 190. This goes in their series of Focke-Wulfs they've come out with. They had a A8, or I think an F8, and then a Night Fighter. This one is a Sternbach, which has the extra armor on the side of the fuselage and on the side of the canopy. It was a heavier version for heavy combat and possibly even ramming of different bombers. So the next one is, there's a new company I've never heard of, at least, and it's called Pepelatz, P-E-P-E-L-A-T-Z. They do resin. They're coming out with a 1/72nd scale what if version of the ME-163, which is very interesting. Not sure how it's going to look since I don't know much about this company, but it'll be kind of a neat item coming out if you like that Luft 46 stuff. Next up, Mini Art is going to do 1/35th scale BMR-1, the early version. They mount with a mine roller system on it. If you like collecting mine roller armor, that one's going to be for you. Next up is Meng 1/35th scale Sherman, which I did announce on the last episode of the show. They did issue some box art, so I'm going to show that here. And looks like they're going to do two markings in the first kit, and they both have a whitewash finish to them, so looks pretty nice. Hopefully they'll be getting that out pretty soon. Next up is MiG Ammo has come out with a book title in their modeling school series on locomotives and locomotive cars, or railroad cars, and how to weather them, and it looks pretty nice. Most of it's European stuff, but it's really good for people who want to weather different types of vehicles, automobiles or trains. It gives you a lot of ideas. So that one actually is out now, so hopefully I'll be able to show you a copy of that pretty soon. Next up is Revell is doing a really interesting subject. They did a 747 Iron Maiden, which is actually a real aircraft painted in Iron Maiden markings that some of the rock group travels around in and their crew to set up at different venues. Well, if you guys have not heard, the lead singer of Iron Maiden is a real history nut, and he has fortunately taken a lot of the money that he has gotten from his fame, and he owns a T-34-85 from what I've seen on a History Channel show, and drives it around, has all kinds of fun with it. Well, they asked him what his wife thought about it, hoping to get kind of a strange comment, but actually what he said was his wife liked it so much, but she wanted her own Spitfire, so he was forced to buy her a Spitfire. And so bought her a restored Spitfire from what I've known of the show had shown. And so therefore Revell, having the rights to Iron Maiden, is trying to come out with a 1/32 scale Spitfire Mark II in the Iron Maiden series called Aces High. And what it has is it's got a little figure of Eddie from the album covers in the cockpit. Hopefully they'll have a little figure of it. It is going to have a decal on the side that says Iron Maiden, so I'm hoping that's going to be a real successful release, because I hope they do a T-34-85, which Revell Germany / Revell has in their inventory. So it'll be lots of fun stuff to work with that, so hopefully they'll be continuing with that. And that's about it for future releases. And if you know any other releases I am missing that are really important, just give me a holler, give me a comment below, and we will get them added on. So up next is new kit review. All right, MouseWorks fans, it's time for the new kit review. And for this issue, I'm going to be reviewing the new Meng Canadian version of the Leopard, what they call the C2 Mexus with dozer blade. And this is one they used in the Gulf and used against Iraq. Basically, this kit has been done before by Tacom and a few other people, but this one is a new issue with the dozer blade, and it's a lot more complex. The Meng one was one of Meng's early releases, and it was pretty simplified, so this should be quite a bit more detail. So there is the cover photograph of it here, and there is a side view which shows the AK color selections there. And there's a profile view of it and a little history of the tank itself. This was made from the Leopard 1 chassis. There's that. And yeah, I was pretty excited about this one, that it was a new tool of this vehicle. So let's take a look at the parts. All right, we'll start with tree A, and this one has the rear decking for the engine cooling system, and some of the side reactive armor blocks here. Looks like some of the side skirts, some of the corner pieces, quite complex. The way Meng does stuff now, it looks really complicated, but it actually fits really well. Their Jag Panther was that way. It looked really complicated, but it fit like a dream. And we got even little hooks and so forth here. Some of the other details here, really fine. I mean, just beautiful looking. And a little slide molding on that front or rear piece here. I'm not sure which one that is. So that is A. Next up is C. And this has the rear stowage bins, and they do have a texture on them. You'll see that in the close-ups later on. Kind of a fine texture. You might want to enhance it possibly with a little bit of MouseWorks grip grit. And some of the corner pieces here, Looks like some of the tool pieces and tow cables, or no, those are antennas. Wow, that's really nicely done. Machine gun, really nicely done. And then some of the just structure here for some of the parts. What's nice on this one, you can actually do the turret in full without the big plating on it. So if you want to make it removed, you can. Some of the other models, they did not. It was all one piece. So looking at letter G, got some smoke dischargers, the mantlet and the mantlet cover. The bottom of the turret ring gives you, looks like 2 mantlet covers, so apparently there's a couple different angles that you can do. Some slide molded pieces here, and looks like it on that one. Okay, next up, this comes in 2 sprues of, let's see, F, and those are all the road wheels and sprockets. Some of the suspension pieces, which are separate, which is kind of nice. And some upper return rollers there. Looking really good. Some of the torsion bars. Okay, moving right along. There's a lot of pieces. I was kind of amazed that when I was unbagging these. D, this has again some of the cooling system and the rear plate. A lot of the lights are already put on there and slide molded, so you don't have to deal with that and trying to get those straight. The lock mechanism for the barrel and the side skirts. And the side skirts do have a detail that has a kind of a waffle pattern in them. Real finely done. Really nicely done on that. Okay, next up is L. And this is the dozer blade. They did this in a completely separate piece, probably so they could use it on or sell it separately, possibly in the future. A lot of fine details on the structure here holding the blade up, so that'll be kind of fun there to weather that. Okay, next up is J. J has the barrel and some more smoke dischargers, and looks like just some of the sensors systems on it. So 2-piece barrel. Wish it had a 1-piece aluminum, but a lot of companies apparently are getting away from that. So H, this one has some fuel cans, look really nice. They actually have the handles on them. Some of the stowage bins and more smoke dischargers. This thing was crazy with smoke dischargers. Okay, next up is K. And this has some of the machine guns here and machine gun mount and the cupola area here. Some of the rings there. Some of the antenna bases, which are really finely done. That's really nice. Okay. Next up, there's 2 of these. This is sprue B, and that has more of the road wheels and sprockets and some of the tow hooks and so forth. Looking real good. Bolt detail is exquisite on that, and I do not see any flash on this kit completely. Okay. E, some more of the engine decking side systems here. Some of the extra little blocks for the track, some traction blocks, and just little miscellaneous this and that's. Okay, this is the clear parts, and I'll have these on the close-up. They're wrapped pretty good, which is nice. They actually protect these really well so they don't get scratched, or even if a piece comes off in there, it'll stay stuck in there instead of rattling around scratching the other pieces. So anyway, some periscope pieces and some parts for the cupola and some headlights. Okay. Next up is the upper and lower chassis. Here's some little attachment pieces here. That's the lower hull, all one piece, so it's nice and square. Good detail. The real tank didn't have much detail on the bottom, so they didn't put any on there. Here you can see some of the attachment points on the front. So like I said, if you don't want to put that armor there or show it being in maintenance and pulled off, you can actually do that and not have to put that stuff on there or scratch build it. Same with here, there's a lot of bolt detail and attachment points there. Rear decking is open there. Okay. Next up is the turret. And you can see on the turret there's those attachment points again, which would be kind of neat to have one of the blocks off so you can actually show that and see how they're attached. Like I said, a lot of the companies that did this, the side pieces were already molded on. Cupola pieces there. It does have texture again to it. Might want a little bit more cast material. Doing the technique I did on the last issue of this magazine with the putty technique. So that way it'll take the washes a little better. That might get hidden in the primers. Next up is the track, and they do not do link by link track. They give you rubber track, or I'm not sure if this is the polystyrene stuff that can glue with plastic glue. I'm guessing it probably is, because most companies are doing that instead of having it vinyl and having to use super glue. So we'll find out when we build this. But really nice detail. It's got the guide horns on it. They look really clean, no cleanup necessary on it. So that'll be kind of nice to use that as one wraparound system there, since you won't see much of it on the side. They do make link by link track from Mang, if I remember right. They have a separate set of it, so if you want to do that, you can buy that separately. Okay, next up is a set of decals, Canadian decal markings. Some cable for some tow cable, and then some photo etched grill systems. This tank didn't have very many grills on it, so they kept that kind of simple. So, and then the last part is going to be the instructions, black and white, and looks like they actually had some interviews with some of the Canadian tank drivers and commanders. Just interesting. Basic layout. They're trying to do it simple again, not many parts per step, but again, I would suggest that on some of these that you use your highlighter markers to mark things that need to be either replaced or a reminder that don't miss that, or if it needs to be an option, and then you mark which option you want. Alright, so we're all ready to the track there, doing some of the rear details. Some of the side blocks here. Again, simple, really clean. Should be really easy to build without having any difficulty getting lost. There's the dozer unit, and hooking it on, doing the two-piece barrel there on the bottom. The mantlet, armored mantlet area here. And then the covers, so they give you that option there. So again, just shows you the different elevations, straight and then elevated a little bit there. And then this shows you more details to put on for the attachments. Again, they'll be covered up. Unless you want to show them, you can. And more detail on that. So they really went all out to detail the turret without those blocks, which is pretty cool. There's the mounts for the extra armor pieces, and there's the armor pieces there. There's the back toolboxes, and some of the extra stuff here with the fuel cans, and they attach to the back there. And then attaching the guns and the turret. Guns are really simple, which is nice. Some companies do like really crazy detail, and it makes it so it's very unbuildable because you can't get stuff straight, and you lose parts, and then you can't finish it. So I like the fact that they make it fairly simple. Parts layout, which we just went through, and some of the color reference here, and they are doing the AK, and then this other company, Acrazon, water-based color. Acrazon. I've never heard of that one. Must be something that they're using in China or in the East. So anyways, that's the instructions there. And then the last piece is a color sheet, which is always nice. And this one has one of the versions here. And unfortunately, most of these tanks were painted the same, all green. There was a few that were tan, and then a few of them that actually had a like a Hessian type covering, which might be kind of interesting, but you'd cover up a lot of the detail. So then there's another group marking there. So again, they give you the color from AK. So anyways, that is about it on that kit. That looks like a lot of fun, a little more interesting than some of the other versions, but if you want to do one that's a lot simpler, then check out the Tacom one, which has been on the market for quite a while. So next up, we are going to go to the model building techniques. Okay, final review, pros and cons of this kit. Basically, the pros are the exquisite molding. The other pros are that they give you all the detail underneath all these armor packages here. So if you want to have it open, you can do that. Nice fact that they did the dozer version. Looks like it's going to be real clean, no flash. Those are all good pros. The cons, I kind of wish they had link by link track, or at least gave a link and length track, which is the way I really think model companies should go, is link and length, and that way people really want the link by link, they can go out and find it, but it'd make it a little more realistic than the vinyl / rubber tracks or styrene tracks. And the other con is the two-piece barrel. I would think that if they had an aluminum barrel, this one's fairly simple, they could have made one out of aluminum or one-piece mold. But that's always an extra thing that I would like to see. Just it's a pain with trying to sand all the seam out. So there is the pros and cons of that kit. Looks like a very good kit. It's going to be a fun build. All right, MouseWorks fans, welcome to the model building techniques section of the video magazine. And for this week, we're going to be talking about washes and panel line washes for specifics on aircraft. And I've got a couple little examples here. I've got this MIG ammo wash, which is called panel line wash, and it's made specifically for panel lines of different colors. So there's various colors. They have about 23 of these actually, different tones, so whatever color you need. And I'll show some painted examples here. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using this piece of plastic here. I'm going to show you basically the best way to use these is over a gloss surface. So if you're doing an aircraft, you need to have a gloss coat, overcoat for it. That works the best for getting it back off. If you do it on flat, it'll actually attach itself to the flat, and it's going to be very hard to get off without and leave it in just in the panel line. So what we'll do is we will get ready and just panel line this plastic, which will simulate the gloss, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, I've got my brush, and I'm going to start using this dark wash so you can see it easily. First of all, I'm going to shake it up, and I got to shake it up pretty good because this pigment settles pretty quick. So if you're starting to use it, and then after a few minutes, I would shake it up again. I did put some of their BBs in here from AK. They are the stainless steel ones, so they won't rust and change the color of the stuff. You can also do this with oil paints. These are enamels. You can use an oil paint. It just takes a little longer to dry if it's just a tube oil paint. so I can actually use an enamel thinner to clean the brush if I need to. So what I'm going to do is don't have to be bashful. I can brush this stuff all over the place, so I don't have to just go over the panels. I mean, it saves paint if you don't have a lot of panels, just to do the panels, but this is just for demo purposes here. So okay, it looked like there was nothing there on the actual helicopter, so, and just make sure don't brush it too hard because you'll pull it back out of the panel, so kind of dab it as you brush, and that way it'll get in those panels. So alrighty, and then we'll actually do this. It kind of works as a crevice wash as well. So okay, so now all we got to do is let that dry. Usually it only takes a few minutes. You can wait up to an hour if you really want to make sure that none of this stuff will pull out of the panels. So we will let that dry and come back. Okay, I've let it dry and ready to wipe it off. Now most times this stuff, again, if you do it on a gloss coat, we'll wipe off just with a paper towel like so. Just make sure it's flat, that way it doesn't get in the crevices and pull the paint out of the crevice detail. You can also use Q-tips, but those tend to get in the crevices and pull it out since they're curved and a little more fluffy. So, but if you do the gloss coat, you should be able to wipe it off without using thinner either. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the cloth and just gently wipe. And again, keeping the cloth flat so it goes across the surface and not into the detail. Okay. So now you can see that the panel lines are there and the surface is fairly clean. You can buff it if you like. Okay. Looking good. Now again, I can use the Q-tips if I want to do certain areas. If I have too much, like down in here, it kind of looks blotchy, so I can actually just pick it up with the cotton swab, and I can always reapply. So this will clean it all up, and then it even gets in that little area right there, which isn't a panel line, but it's just a crease. So anyways, if I need to use the thinner, I would use the thinner over the top if it's being stubborn, and just make sure you wait till it's a little bit drier, probably at least an hour. This was done with a hair dryer to dry it up, and I wouldn't have the panel lines this stark. I would actually use like the brown or a gray if it was a lighter color, so I'll show you that on a sample. But that's it for panel lining, and kind of have fun with it. If you decide that it doesn't work for you, just take the thinner and a Q-tip, soak the Q-tip, and you can take it right out of the panels, just like that. So a couple people have panel liners, AK and MIG ammo. I'm using MIG ammo. The Tamiya isn't quite as colorful as this. They have about 4 different colors. That stuff works basically the same idea. So give it a try, and if you want certain colors, just use oil paints, mix them up, thin them out, and flow them in, then like I said, let them dry at least an hour before buffing them. So get your panel liners on. Here's panel liners I did on a 32nd scale Spitfire. I tried to keep them light so they didn't overwhelm the whole aircraft. This is on the gloss coat, this is before the dull coat. And on the bottom, I use the lighter gray brown, and you can see all that nice detail that Revell did is showing up. Sometimes you got to make sure that things, if you lose the scribe or the detail with sanding, you just need to redo it, or you can go back in with a pencil later and fill it in. But looks good, shows all that detail without being too overwhelming. So give it a try. And next up is new gear. For those of you who think panel line washes are kind of overdone on aircraft, this is a photograph from the box of the Hasegawa Seahawk, and as you can see, look at that. Every single panel has some dirt in it. So a lot of aircraft, they are very hard to keep clean, especially helicopters. So they're halfway up against like armor and halfway aircraft. So anyways, that's what your model will look like using those panel line washes. Okay, this issue of New Gear is going to do something different. Basically, I've got a couple different sizes of these, and basically what I'm using them for, these are coupler springs for trains, and this is HO and this is N scale. I mean, you can see how small these little guys really are. I mean, they're tiny. But basically what I use these for is on my other issue where I did the stretch sprue, basically you'd stretch out an antenna, and then you'd slide this over the narrow part of the antenna and put it towards the base. And this works as a spring base for antennas. Most whip antennas on armor had to have some kind of bending ability since they were so long to go under bridges or low areas. So they usually had a spring to keep them straight. So these are actually just put them down at the base and glue them in, or just let them rest there, and you basically got a spring base. But to give you an idea how small these little guys can be, there's a pen. So kind of hard to pick up and find. That's why it's good to get a whole bunch of them, because you're going to lose a lot of them. So anyways, those will actually work on armor, and so give it a try. These are the HO ones there, and these are the N scale. So give them a try. They also work as other things, just being microscopic springs. You can pull them out and stretch them and make them look a little different for different items. So that is this week's New Gear. And as always, I appreciate the people sponsoring my channel, and I've got a mouseworks.com channel and website, and that's where I sell my MouseWorks materials and modeling tools, and that's how I support the channel. So as always, I appreciate everybody who goes there and supports the channel. If you have any other ways to support the channel, just let me know. And new kits, donations, things like that, just let me know. And make sure you get the word around to any other forums that you go to. Always let people know where you found the information out, and I need to grow the channel, get some more subscribers, some more people, just to get the word out. So anyways, have fun and keep on building. All right, a little end piece that I've been putting on the show of a work in progress, and here's my T90 work in progress. And this is the trumpeter kit, and holy cow, there's a lot of parts. I mean, it's just unbelievable, all the stuff that had to put on that turret. Still have a lot of stuff to go, just placing some stuff there, but between the chassis and the turret and the tracks, that gives you quite a challenge. So if you really want something to keep you busy, get their T90, one of their T90 kits, and give it a shot. It'll keep you busy. Thanks for watching.